between. Yes, it was just a lot of building blocks that didn't, and we took away a lot of them. I mean, we built a couple of albums, really, and
minimum
3 albums we could have got out of this one.
Yeah.
Well, it was just a year's studio work, really. We had to go around the houses to find out who we were as a 3-piece. You know, just it was like starting again. So, yeah, we covered a lot of ground.
Yeah, I mean, it sounded like during the course of that time when different news stories would come through about Blur recording their new album, and it sounded like you're all being really positive, the kind of things that you were posting up on the website, talking about the recording process and how it was all going. It all sounded completely positive. You know, it sounded like, you know, these are some of the best tracks we've ever worked on and all that kind of stuff. And it's interesting looking at the credits on the album, or the promo album that I've got, which it says all tracks by Blur. And as far as I can tell, that's the first time that's ever appeared on an album sleeve. Normally it kind of either gets like Albarn and then the other names of the band, or you know, Albarn, Blur. So in a way, is this the first time that it's all worked completely together as a band?
Well, Damon's still the main songwriter in the band, but I think
I didn't know our songs were credited.
Well,
I hadn't even looked at the credits, so I wouldn't even know.
So it kind of
But
silly
it's
thing
fine.
I spend my
It doesn't
time.
matter. Who gives a shit who credits what and whatever? It's either it's good music to listen to or not. I think that's, you know, I think it gets in the way, and it gets in the way of music. You sort of try and identify it too much where it comes from.
So we shouldn't spend too much time looking at these sleeves, you see. That's a problem. So the other thing that was kind of noted in the press a lot, and it was made to be a big deal, was the arrival of Norman Cook in the proceedings.
Well, he's just newsworthy, isn't he, Norman?
I mean, and it turns out he's named as being a co-producer on 2 of the tracks on the album. Why did you kind of want to invite him to kind of take part? And
we've been talking about it for a long time, and it was, you know, we'd always intended to sort of see how it went with him, and he was up for coming and hanging out and being basically part of the band. So we had a trial period, so to speak, and it went really well, and we just enjoyed hanging out with each other, and took that down to Morocco, where we got the sort of bulk of the work that we did together done.
Yeah.
In a few days, basically.
And that was kind of done and dusted. Move on to the next track. Okay, well, this is Exposure. It's 104.9 XFM. It's another Exposure album playback. We're talking about Blur's new album, Think Tank, tonight. I've got Alex, Dave and Damon from the band with me, and we're going to take a little break, and then we're going to give you the whole of the new album with them, talking their way through it as well. And you're listening to Exposure, 104.9 XFM tonight. It's another Exposure album playback, the brand new album from Blur. It's called Think Tank, and the first track is called Ambulance. What can any of you tell us about Ambulance?
I try and do a lot of stuff. Once I've got the melody and the chord structure, I try to just sing it in one go without thinking about it too much, and it comes out sort of partially formed, a song, and sometimes you're lucky and it comes out almost kind of sort of perfect, and sometimes it's just a mess.
And is Ambulance a case of the former?
Yeah, it did come out pretty good. And then,
what's it about there, Dames?
it's about, it was the first song I wrote that I thought, right, this is Blur again. I feel like I'm in the right place again. I suppose the lyrics kind of have something to do with that, you know, having nothing to be scared of anymore.
Yeah.
Maybe I was really terrified of going back into Blur world. When it is a world, you know, this isn't just, it's got so much history now that it's not just, it's, you know, with kind of Gorillaz and Marley music, I could almost just talk about music, almost. When not that I did a lot of Gorillaz, but with Marley, I could just talk about the reasons for making music, and it didn't need to sort of diverse into, you know, personal stuff and historic stuff. But Blur now is, you know, it is what it is, and I think maybe that's was a subconscious sort of acceptance that it was time to get back to a day job, so to speak. But I think the song's just is optimistic, like pretty much everything on the record. It's kind of it's using music to find strength.
That's Blur, Ambulance, the first track from the new album. Think Tank, Out of Time is the single, the first single from the album, and that is the next track on the album. Andalusian strings groups or something on this.
Not easy to find in West London.
No. How long did it take? And presumably Andalusian, they're from Spain. And how many?
Moroccan Andalusian
okay.
strings, so they're from Morocco, but they're from the Berber tradition, which has very strong connections with the Moorish tradition in southern Spain. We kind of met quite a few people who were out there, and we sort of ended up meeting these musicians who were unbelievably good, and didn't really give them a directive, and just sort of set them up and let them get on with it. And before we'd even really started to kind of say, right, now here's where it starts and ends, they'd done this pass, which was sort of partially them sort of tuning up, just warming up, not tuning up, warming up, and playing little passages that they didn't appear when they were doing it, but they were actually listening to a track at all. But when we kind of played back this take, it was all virtually in place. We had to do a very little bit of shifting, and it was a very magical moment, and that's been kind of sort of what we've been looking for on this record. Every day we looked for a bit of magic.
That sounds lovely. Now, I read one thing that said it was a letter to Graham Coxon. What did you think of that? Or,
Well, Out of Time is.
Yeah.
As the enemy.
Yeah, I think so. I think they gave it Single of the Week, and they said, this is brilliant, and it sounds like a letter to Graham Coxon.
They said it sounds like Graham's album.
Oh, come on, House.
Oh, I don't.
Come on, man, we don't need to flip in.
Yeah. Right.
Well, I mean, it was done quite early on in the proceedings. This, like, more or less the first batch of recordings we did, and the backing track is more or less totally a live take of us just playing the song together, the three of us. So it's like really not relying on too much studio trickery or anything. It's just an organic recording.
But I think because it was so sparse, it's an acoustic guitar, bass and very little drums, it could cope with the ambient sort of stuff that went on in Morocco, because not only were they tuning up, but they were also talking amongst themselves. So it's this kind of, it starts with this conversation amongst these musicians, and I don't know what they were saying, but and then the song kind of sort of it sort of floats in. I kind of always thought that it had a similar quality to Forever Changes, Love.
Right. For some reason I keep hearing Say a Little Prayer when I hear it.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh.
There's quite a few tracks on the album that I kind of hear things that aren't obvious, that you think, oh, that's obviously like this, but for some reason it's there. There's quite a few tracks that seem to have a kind of soul, Stax, Motown type.
Oh God, yeah. I mean that, but I've always been there, and I've just been, just trying to find some connection between myself and that kind of music, which I've always loved. And I suppose with this record, something clicked, whether it was physiologically or whatever, and my voice kind of went into a different gear, and it really did happen overnight. And singing that song in Morocco, in the sunshine, outside. So when you do sing a line like "Feel the Sunshine," it's not the kind of lyric that I've necessarily I've ever dreamt of writing or singing years ago. But these days, that simplicity when it's married to an actual moment that you're feeling it is. But that's what soul music is about. So I suppose that's maybe why it's got that kind of that resonance.
That's Out of Time, Blur, from the new album Think Tank. And the next track is Crazy Beat, which is the first track that's got a co-production with Norman Cook. And in a way, it's kind of like, you can hear a bit of Fatboy, it's kind of like Fatboy Slim meets Middle Eastern punk rock or something.
That's pretty much what it is. It started off as a very different tune, which we first recorded with Bill Laswell years earlier, and I was just so freaked out. I walked out of the session, and virtually in the middle of a vocal take, I just left the studio.
You thought I was a singer anyway.
Yeah, it wasn't very good. And it had this sort of mad sort of vocoder-ish vocal, and the melody originally was over a real sort of kind of
Skanky band man
groove, yeah, and then just put this sort of almost, well, descending semitonal guitar, and the melody worked over it. It was amazing. It shouldn't have really worked, because the melody was like dee 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 dee, and then but this guitar's going dee 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 dee, but the two worked together. Another little magic moment for us. But I think that's what we were just trying to do all the way through this record, was just put things together that shouldn't work, and we've made a lot of mistakes, but the ones that we felt were pretty much all the ones that we felt had worked, we kept on and we put on the album. There's still a few which I'd like to have seen on the record, but it would have turned into a different kind of record, because a lot of the other stuff was probably a bit rawer and less articulated, but still really interesting. And so the record would have been a double album, and you'd have had the sort of the kind of laid back side and the more kind of fractious, difficult side. And I think what we wanted was to try and find balance between those two.
Well, I think we should hear this. This is Crazy Beat, Blur, from the new album Think Tank. Exposure 104.9 XFM. That was Crazy Beat from Blur. The next song is called Good Song, which is another mellow tune with a Motown Stax type thing.
Well, that was originally called De La Soul.
Right.
On our kind of huge list of songs, the half-finished ideas, it was called De La Soul. It was called De La Soul, right until the end. And I always thought it was a good song, so I just called it Good Song in the end. But I know I love that. I love that. I love the sort of the intimacy of it, and just think everyone played really gently on it, and the melodies. It's a good melody.
Sunday morning special, isn't it?
It's Exposure. It's 104.9 XFM. That's Good Song by Blur from the new album. On the Way to the Club is the next track, and when I first heard this, I thought of M2May's Juicy Fruit. Do you remember that track?
No.
Juicy Fruit. I want to lick your lollipop. You can lick me everywhere was the lyric. And it starts with a really similar kind of electronic drum thing, and it's you've got to hear it. It's a kind of 80s, mid-80s kind of classic kind of soul
I like
type
it
record.
already.
No, it's a. But obviously, that's what I heard, but that's not what you heard when you were making it On the Way to the Club.
That was definitely a hangover song, of which I sort of write from time to time. It changed dramatically. James, who's worked on the record with us, who's also my cousin, was in the studio. I think it was only Ben, myself, and James, and I just was just playing around as they were doing something else, and the tune came out, and the bit of the lyric, and then so I just said, "Can you put a drum beat down pretty quickly?" And they just put this mad sort of fractured thing down, and we built it up from there. But it's yeah, I sort of don't really know why it sounds that way, but it's definitely got a very individual sound. Someone said that it kind of sort of revived Screamadelica, which I don't know.
Right. I'm sticking with my own two, mate.
Yeah, I'd like to hear that track. I don't know
Yeah.
that track.
No, it's great. It was recently sampled by some rapper, somebody like Busta Rhymes or something sampled it recently. But it's
It just leads from the line, "On my way to the club, I fell down a hole."
yeah. I mean, that immediately paints a little,
does.
a little picture, which sounds like quite good fun, really.
Yeah, well, it's kind of it's the good intentions of which you participate in revelry, and then actually the reality of it.
You're listening to Exposure. It's 104.9 XFM. I've got Alex, Dave and Damon from Blur in with me tonight. It's the new album, Think Tank. It's out next week. We're playing the whole thing tonight, though. We just heard On the Way to the Club. The next track is Brothers and Sisters. Is this going to be a single? Sounds to me like it should be a single.
Yeah.
It's an anthem.
Well,
Surely it's an anthem.
I hope so.
Rebuild your lives.
Yeah.
And again, I've got more mad references for this. This sounds to me like Creedence Clearwater meets The Beloved.
Only one beloved track, though.
Yes, no, this is true. Sounds a bit like Hello. Well, only just because you had that speaking bit.
Yeah.
But there's this Creedence Clearwater track. They do their version of Susie Q, which lasts about, the full version's about
We've been called
12 minutes.
We've been called the new Crosby, Stills and Nash as well.
Right. Well, I really like that kind of droning vocal hum in it.
Yeah.
That sounds really great.
That was
Brothers
one
and
of the
Sisters.
last things to go on. This was a track that took quite a different direction for most of its life, and then right at the end, we switched it about and took it in a different direction. It wasn't quite so dark. Not dark as in.
It sounded a bit more like the Velvet Underground when we
Yeah.
started. The guitar was just on one chord and droning, and the choruses didn't sort of. They had that message very clearly, but it was kind of too sort of
Dirty.
It was too overtly about one thing. It was about kind of sort of
Dirty.
too druggy in a way. Do you know? Which is a weird thing because in the song it's all about drugs. So I think we just sort of pushed ourselves a bit more with it and gave it a lot more space and
Space punk. Spunk music.
I'm surprised it hasn't been done before.
But the list, the Brothers and Sisters, Rebuild Your Life, We're All Drug Takers, Give Us Something Tonight, is countered by the list, and the list was kind of sort of inspired by the life of JFK and his need to have 28 drugs every day of his presidency just to keep him functioning.
Because of his back.
Because of his back, yeah, but it wasn't just his back. It was cycle of dead. He had antidepressants. He had uppers. He had downers. You know, he had the lot, and it's just that kind of.
He had the keys to the cupboard, didn't he?
He did. It's just the idea that someone who at one point was on the verge of committing us all to, unspeakable things.
Yeah, on the brink of World War III.
Yeah,
back in-
was that intoxicated. It just sort of, drugs exist from the top to the bottom of society, and therefore we need them. The whole issue of them needs to be reassessed.
That's been what the song is about. probably rules it out as a single, I think.
I still maintain it should be.
It would be great. I think we're talking about more bleeps than
Like of all,
what could go down the record books for actually the most bleeps in a commercial single ever.
We just had to take the word ecstasy out of
No, we haven't yet.
another song entirely. Otherwise,
Yeah, but that
completely
does make
different
me laugh.
context.
See, that does make me laugh because Clint Eastwood.
Right, really?
Well, sunshine in the bag.
Yeah, well, this is it, yeah.
Got that one
Past the
through.
senses. Well, what about girls who are boys to be girls?
I don't know. It actually seems very arbitrary when they decide to censor something. And I mean, on Crazy Beat, what they want us to do is reverse it. But for me, that just kind of sort of highlights the word, and in a way, I think it's censorship is actually a meaningless.
meaningless cunt.
Well, it's
meaningless.
sensitivity or censorship. It's sometimes
I
you can be
believe
oversensitive.
I believe in sensitivity, but censorship is it goes back to that old saying that you only betray yourself,
Yeah.
and what you're really thinking.
What's
If
the-
you
what's
think
the
something
saying?
needs censoring.
I think we should hear the song. No.
I don't know, we can play it now, can we? That's it.
Yeah, we've ruled it out.
We'll never play it on
we'll
the
play
radio
this once. This is Blur with Brothers and Sisters. Blur, Brothers and Sisters from the new album Think Tank. What do you think? Should it be censored?
We've
Come on.
perverted you all now.
You
We've
know
turned
it.
you all into drug-fueled loonies.
An interesting discussion about an important issue, I think. John.Kennedy@xfm.co.uk if you want to give us your thoughts before the end of the night. The next track is Caravan, and it's kind of the halfway point. Will take us to the halfway point through the album, and when we get mellow again, I guess. What's this one about?
I think this one's about the sun going down for me. That was like a perfect studio moment, sitting on top of a kind of strange barn in the Moroccan desert, listening to Damon do a vocal, and it was a sort of perfectly still time of day, and the sun was perfectly red, and there was just an immense sense of calm and this music.
It's music, Caravan. It's
What do you mean by that?
well, I feel like that's the kind of song that you could play anywhere. I mean, I remember when we just finished it, and when everyone left to go back to London after Morocco, I went down to Mali for a couple of days because we were with Honest Johns. We're still working out there with musicians and stuff. And I was sitting in a mango grove with wild turkeys, and I had a little CD player, and I put it on there, and it's just nice seeing everyone sitting around, getting stoned, listening to it. It's nice because the guitar is very much sort of inspired by Afel and that whole great Malian tradition of blues guitar.
This is Afel Bakum, who worked with you on
Oh, sorry,
music.
Afel Bakum.
Yeah. You know, I know, but not everybody else might know. Okay, well, this is Caravan then, Blur, from the new album Think Tank.
Hello, I'm Dave from listen to John Kennedy. I actually had 4.9.
It's Exposure, it's 104.9 XFM. Tonight you've got the whole of the new album from Blur, Think Tank, and that was track 8. We've got a file on you. Some more Middle Eastern punk rock sounding to me. So, I mean, it seems nearly every Blur album has to include a kind of short, sharp
They
attack.
are getting shorter. I think the older we get, the shorter they have to get.
Is that the shortest ever Blur song?
Yeah, it is.
It's excellent. I think it's great. So, I mean, we've got a file on you. It's kind of it's pretty straightforward.
Yeah.
Paranoia.
Yeah. your average kind of paranoia. I think also in the absence of Graham, it was getting very frustrating not having any of that that sort of madness on the guitar, and I think we just all, had a stupid little thing, and we just did it, didn't we? We just said, come on, let's just do it.
It didn't take that long.
We just said, let's do it. Let's just put the guitars out, turn the amps up, and just scream for a minute.
It's funny because you kind of hear it and think, oh, it's the sound that Blur do that is associated with Graham in a way.
Yeah.
And yet Graham wasn't there for the recording, so... Yeah, so, right. What does that tell us?
It doesn't tell you anything. The point is that's where we come from, as all of us, It wasn't ever exclusively Graham's heritage or anybody's, it was all of us, and that's how we formed a band, and that's where, when we were Seymour, that was very much what we were all into, totally, and there wasn't any of that, it's a shame that in a way, kind of, we've had quite public sort of existence and always been quite open and shared how we're feeling as a band with everybody, and there's sort of over the years it's become kind of sort of received wisdom that Graham's the one who liked heavy, angry music, and the rest of us were whatever.
Bunch of pussies.
Yeah, and then it's like whatever, but it's just just listen to a tune, for fuck's sake.
The next track is Moroccan People's Revolutionary Bowls Club.
Yeah.
What's that title all about?
I think that was Ben gave it that title, didn't he?
Did he?
Yeah.
This is Ben Hillier who.
Yeah. Well, we were
co-produced
going on the kind of sort of giving it a revolutionary Moroccan title, and then he sort of balanced it by adding Bowls Club.
Kind of
I
reminds
was
me.
going to go for Moroccan Revolutionary People's Mujahideen or whatever.
Right.
Bowls Club I think was a lot more accurate.
What's this one all about then?
It's about well, I mean that track happened before we'd actually set up the studio as proper in Morocco,
Right.
and we were waiting for it to arrive because it had been impounded in the transition between European and African ways of doing business. in
So this is the
Tangiers.
one that was recorded on laptops and stuff.
Yeah, and guitars and just sort of so. Who right there? Oh, no, Crunchy. No.
Dave's come back from the loo with the crunchy. There must be
Not really a radio confectionery, is it?
No.
And
adds texture to the.
so we were literally just hanging about waiting for everything to turn up, and we just. We were in the middle of a desert. I suppose it has got a bit of it's definitely got a bit of a Clash
Yeah.
sort of underbelly to it, but that's probably as much informed by the environment we were in. I mean, we were in combat rock. Everywhere you looked reminded me of that cover that I'd looked at so much when I was younger.
Yeah.
We even had a railway track near us.
It was the first kind of first song on the album that sounds a bit like the Clash. There's another that has a kind of Clash quality to it as well. So was it purely because you thought you were in combat rock
No, I
territory?
don't know.
or-
That's just what it happened. The drums were kind of like from one of those sort of 40s films where
Beach party,
Yeah.
pizzazz, cool beach party. It started off actually. We ran out of instruments. We had a guitar, and that was about it. We started off trying to play with some cardboard boxes and things, and hitting whatever happened to be lying around. We kind of ran out, so that was really the first and last time we went to the souks in Marrakesh. We went to a music shop there and just bought everything there that we thought might fit in, and played a lot of that on it. But then when the drums finally arrived, that didn't seem so appropriate anymore, so it went kind of back towards 60s.
I think
beach
it was just a
party
mixture
mode.
of all the things, and then it goes off into kind of proper Malian guitar, sort of West African high life guitar, and then goes off again into something else.
I was just trying to play off the wall sort of bass lines.
Because that's what you were listening to.
Yeah.
That's what you listened to. The only take you heard was the Michael Jackson demos.
Yeah.
Michael Jackson demos off the wall, and I think that's all we had in the studio at that moment. And being in the desert, this is how we work. We work that we don't have a plan for anything. We just we go with whatever's around on that particular day, and we make some sense of it in context of music. And the lyrics come from sitting outside the studio where there are lots of cypress poplar trees which look like rockets, and then kind of going, well, how can you talk about deserts, rockets, and trees?
Moroccan People's Revolutionary Bowls Club, Blur, from the new album Think Tank. That title is just great. The next song is Sweet Song, and is it kind of like Good Song was called Good Song because he thought it was a good song, and Sweet Song because he thought it was quite sweet?
Yes.
Yeah.
Nothing more sinister than that.
No, but that's also a kind of... That's also another African thing, I suppose, I've picked up, is that, they do cool things. They kind of call it like Tree Song or Baobab Song, or you know what I mean? They just give it something quite simple, and it doesn't have an agenda so much. It's just like offered out as a nice bit of music to everyone, and that's something that has changed massively in my life. I think is that I don't see the sort of the kind of ownership of things quite so strongly anymore, and sort of funnily enough, the ownership of that song is most definitely out and about, because we were in Spain a couple of days ago, and the DJ said, I've got something to play you, and put a tape on, and it was Chris Martin singing that song, and it was like, well, it's definitely out there for everyone, because I haven't even sung it yet.
Wow, so he'd heard it somewhere and did a version of
God's own internet.
Wow.
Probably got it off the label.
It's a very, it's so melancholy that it's kind of quite uplifting. I think it's in the same way that someone like I love songs that are heartbreaking, because I think that's just, there's something amazingly positive about that, breaking your heart on record. Because it's repaired almost by the end, because you've just gone through that process, so it's a healing thing in it.
Yeah, definitely. It's got lovely, nice vocal harmonies on it as well, which is always a good thing. Sweet song. Sorry, were you going to say...
Sorry, no, I was just about to launch off onto a long ramble about titles. But it's interesting to me anyway, that the title of a thing, certainly in the kind of Western culture, is almost a thing in itself these days. And when we were recording this record, when we were recording this record, that we didn't really get anything of titles right until the end. The songs just had numbers, kind of random numbers as well. I never really got the hang of the numbering system, but it kind of threw the emphasis back on the songs. Because if anything, the titles can be a kind of slight distraction. So I don't know, that was what I was going to say. I'll just add that little interjection in.
That little gem of insight.
Yes.
That's very worthwhile, I think.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
No, anytime you want any little gems of insight, I'm your man.
I'll phone you up. Excellent. Sweet song, Blur, from the new album Think Tank. The next track is Jets, and has some nice kind of blues picking at the beginning of it.
Played on a ukulele.
Right, okay. I mean, there's so many different instruments on this album, and it's interesting because there's music is my radar.
You want to see what Studio 13 looks like? It's chaos. It's just a case of, right, we're doing a song, it's just sort of basically close your eyes and just reach out for something. Oh, okay, I'll use that today.
Right.
We had to construct the biggest bass ever played.
For you to play.
Because it's the smallest guitar against the biggest bass.
Yeah.
That's kind of
the balance. But we've learned, I think, that on this record a lot more, is that, if the smaller one thing gets, the bigger another bit can get, and so It's sort of like if you've got really big vocals, you want really small bass. If you've got really little sort of lead lines, you want really big. You know, and it's just it's learning. It's learning. Public learning. That's what we do.
Yeah, well,
It's sort of Cro-Magnon jazz, this, I suppose.
it is. It's kind of like it's kind of like Swell Maps at one point, and then near the end.
Swell Maps. Well, it's interesting because I know why you say that, because it does sound a bit like. I think it sounds a bit like Wire.
Right,
It's
yeah,
where it goes.
yeah,
Just
yeah.
a light.
Yeah, with that kind of. There's also this group around at the moment called the Chap, who I really like and play a lot on the show, and they also do that thing where they find a phrase like Elvis is a pig farmer,
Yeah.
and they just repeat that in that
Yeah.
kind of mantra type way, which you do with the Jets, like Comets at Sunset thing, and it works really well. And then suddenly there's this really long saxophone solo near the end. Who's that?
That was a really long night, and that's Mike Smith, who was someone who's worked in one form or another with us for a long time, and is now very much the sort of he's the kind of very much involved with everything, and he's a brilliant saxophonist. And it was late at night, and it was just go in there and do your thing and think of Charlie Parker. And you know, it's not easy to be given over a beat like that, something that is so out of context with jazz. But you know, he wrote the whole thing, and it was a one take, and it takes about 50 listens. But once you've listened to it, you can see the sense in it all, and it's quite, you know, it's a magnificent solo, I think.
He says he doesn't even remember playing it. I don't know if it's
I doubt Charlie Parker remembered playing much of this stuff either.
Well, top of head didn't remember any of the first Clash album.
No, but I mean, you know, for people who aren't that sort of who haven't kind of discovered jazz yet, you know, you check out people like Thelonious Monk and Art Pepper, and just, you know, read about them, and you'll see that rock and roll was never the kind of sort of revolution that it claimed to be, and that those kind of sort of emotional highs and lows have been pursued by musicians have always been pursued by musicians. That is the nature of musicianship, and improvisation is about finding yourself a state where you can you know, lose yourself.
Jets, Blur, Think Tank, the new album. We're nearly all the way through it. Just two more tracks to play you. Gene by Gene is the next one, and I guess this is the one which also displays some kind of Clash reference or influence or whatever. Particularly in your vocals, seems to be a bit like kind of Joe Strummer style vocals at the beginning of the track. But of course, it completely changes by the end. You know, it's all different again. And Norman Cook also worked on this track.
Yeah, that's the tune. Well, we had.
You weren't there for. You went to a funeral, and we had some cymbals that we were dipping in the fish tank and recording, and that's what the noise at the beginning is. Then we kind of forgot about it till we were in Morocco. Played it to Norman, and he said, "That's it. That's the sound I've been looking for." And there was a truck that was parked.
No, I was there because the first part, the dig down, we'd done that anyway, and then I went to bury my grandfather, and we put those mad sounds on, and then we left it. It wasn't really ever going to be used. It was one of our many kind of bits of music which we hadn't found a home for, and then he was just listening to them all, you know, after we'd done Crazy Beat and had a few days to kill in Morocco with him still, and he said, let's try something on that, and we just, you know, banged it out, mate.
What's the particular noise you're thinking of? Is it the squeaky spring?
No, that came later. That came later. That was actually was an old farm truck, farm truck. No, it wasn't a truck. It was
It was like a trailer, wasn't it?
A trailer
that you dragged behind.
I always say truck when I mean trailer. and it was a rusty old trailer outside.
It was a
outside
trash
building.
trailer.
And we just got on it, and it made one hell of a squeak. So we mic'd it up outside, and we're all squeaking away, trying to get in rhythm with the track. But it was really hot, you know, out there, and
this trailer was kind of almost black with rust, so it had been absorbing the sun's rays for the entire day. So you couldn't stand still on it, or you couldn't kind of hold on to it. It was just boiling.
we also had a kind of open 400-foot well right outside, which was kind of sort of quite exhilarating to look down because it's fucking deep.
I like the idea that you go all the way to Morocco and you listen to the whole album and you can hear a bit of African influence, a bit of Mali, a bit of Afrobeat in there, and a kind of Middle Eastern thing in quite a lot of the tracks. But the kind of Middle Eastern influence boils down to the spring on a trailer outside where you were recording.
Yeah.
I think that's excellent.
Morocco's a weird melting pot like that, though. I mean, it's
a fabulous country.
It is, but
anyone gets a chance to
it's
visit
just
it.
so close to so many other really dominant cultures. You know,
Exactly.
it's just
It's very true.
it's just an amazing place. I mean, and it does get the most unexpected things from each of the cultures. You know, it hasn't got you know, the onions of the French and the blah 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 of this and the blah blah blah. Everything's there, but it's just mixed up really weirdly.
For many centuries, one of the kind of only places where Jews and Arabs live together in total peace and harmony.
Gene by Gene, Blur, track 12 from the new album Think Tank. Battery in Your Leg is the last track, and this is the one that features Graham as well. What can you tell us about Battery in Your Leg?
Well, it's the only thing that when Graham did come back to the studio briefly worked. And it was just, you know, it was just really quick. And I remember I'd been waiting around for everyone to turn up. Just when I sat on the piano, that came out very, very quickly. And the idea of singing a song about us. And then we all came to do it really quickly, didn't we? Everyone's parts just wrote themselves, didn't they? And it was really nice. But that was kind of the sole moment on this album where it made sense as being a 4-piece still. But you know, that's evidence that it still works. And so, you know, we've said in every single interview, it's like, I'm sure there'll come a time when we'll make music again together.
Yeah, the future is still there to be unraveled.
But that isn't quite the last track, you know.
Oh, isn't it?
No, because there's a secret track.
Oh no, and I haven't heard. Is it on this version that I've got? I've got a little promo
track
version.
naught. You have to rewind
At the
one
very
track.
beginning of the album,
Yeah.
then. Right. What's that secret track then?
Well, yeah, listen to it.
Damn. Well, I'm very sorry. I can't
That's
discuss.
okay, but listen to it because it's.
So, well,
we really like it a lot.
right.
And
Okay.
it features
Blast from the past.
a very, very big blast from the past.
Right. Oh God. I'm gonna rush home now.
And we will, and we probably will, hopefully, if we can get it together, do it at one of the Astoria dates with whatever it is that features from the past.
Right. With this blast from the past, this
Yeah.
new secret track. So. We've given you the whole of the new album. We're going to play Battery in Your Leg in a second. We've given you the whole of the new album from Blur, Think Tank, apart from this secret track, which you'll be able to get your hands on next week when it gets in the shops. And then you can cross your fingers that they'll be playing it, this secret track, at one of the 5 dates at the Astoria.
Well,
We'll do some other songs as well. You know.
Yeah, that's good. So what's it going to be like live? Is it going to be a slightly different band, obviously, but is it going to be all new stuff? Or, I mean, 5 nights is a lot of nights to play.
Well, we've learnt a considerable amount of old stuff. You know, I mean, we're ready to have a go and, you know, get out there again. I'm looking forward to it enormously.
I'm pleased that you're back with a new album. That's been 4 years, and it's finally here. Thanks a lot for coming in.
My pleasure.
Cheers.
Much appreciated. This is Blur. Battery in your leg.